and welcome again to Woman Enough for Marriage, a channel where we believe that marriage is to be enjoyed, not to be endured. And so this channel is dedicated to looking at reasons why we might not be enjoying our marriages and how to deal with those issues so that we can all enjoy the maximal benefit that God intends for us in our marriage relationships. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I want to appreciate everyone that has subscribed. If you haven't, please do subscribe and please do share the channel with people that you think might enjoy the content. Today I'm going to be starting a series on sex. I don't know yet how many parts it's going to have, but today is a bit of an introduction to the topic. And I just want to, talk generally today just to get us thinking as married couples, about sex, to get us talking, husband and wife talking about sex, to get us reflecting, to get us examining our sex lives as married couples. How it is. Is it good? Is it great? Do we have a zero sex life? Where are we at as couples? Because we need to be having these discussions as married couples. As I go on today, I will actually make us to see the reason why we need to talk about sex more in our marriages. So let's start by actually looking at why talk about sex. And I think I will say, why don't we talk about sex? Because I think that's a very important question as well. Why do we not talk about sex? Why don't we talk about sex, especially people of faith, Christians in churches and things? Why don't we talk about sex? Sex is in our faces, everywhere we turn to. Even the most innocent of adverts will still have a sex innuendo. You know, Movies and films, even the ones that are PGs, there will still be sex in there because it's almost like if there's no sex scene, then it won't sell. And yet you find out that in marriages, sometimes we ignore the importance of sex. We don't talk about sex for various reasons, which I'm not going to go into. But I think one of the main reasons, which I'm going to talk about today, is the fact that we see sex and God as opposites. I mean, you can't be a Christian and talk about sex. You can't, God has nothing to do with sex. But it is a lie. It's the lie of the devil. God has everything to do with sex. And because we sometimes have this notion and at the back of our minds, we feel that sex is not something that you talk about because it's dirty, because it's not godly, then we see marriages that are suffering. Sex has the capacity to bring pleasure and satisfaction to marriages, but it also has the capacity to bring a lot of anger, a lot of frustrations, a lot of conflict into marriages. Sex is actually a major source of conflict in marriages. Statistics prove that. I'm not going to go into that, but there are statistics to actually prove that sex is a major source of conflict. And from my experience as well, I mean, when I think about the conflicts that we've had as a married couple, sex played a major part in it. Before we started to learn ways of managing those conflicts and pay more attention to sex in our relationship. Sex has a potential to destroy a marriage. I'll just put this out there. And I'm not just talking about, because of unfaithfulness or because of adultery, sexual unfaithfulness. No, I'm talking about the fact that sex has a capacity to destroy marriages, because if a couple is struggling with their sex life, every other thing can go wrong. And from there, that can be the catalyst that sets other things in motion that can eventually end the relationship. And so it's important that we give sex the attention that it needs, the attention that it deserves in our relationship. Like I said, God created sex. We can't take God away from sex. But unfortunately, we find out that, like most of the other things that God created and that God made, humans are always seeking to abuse it, to misinterpret it, to give it a different definition. Then we end up not enjoying the benefit of it. Sex is a blessing. It's a special gift that God has given to married couples. But you find that out again, something that's meant to be a blessing can become a curse. Sex is a gift that is left unwrapped, that is unappreciated, that is unacknowledged, that is undiscovered, that is misused or abused, cannot benefit the recipient. In marriage, if we don't understand that gift that God has given us, sex as a gift, as married couples, we will not enjoy the benefit. If we look at the human body, God was intentional in making us. When we read Psalm 139, verse 14, the NLT translation says, "Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it." God was intentional in making us, in creating us as human beings. We have different parts, sensitive and delicate parts that God has created to perform the functions that He wants them to perform, which is the function of giving us pleasure as humans, giving us pleasure in marriage. When we look at that verse, it's not just talking about being beautiful outwardly, it's talking about the complexity of the human body and how God has created it. And so God has created those sexual organs, sexual parts for our enjoyment, for our pleasure, contrary to the things that we might have been told, to believe that, oh, God is not interested in sex, God is not interested in us having pleasure. Of course He is. If you also look at 1 Corinthians 6:16, we'll find out that sex is a key ingredient in becoming one flesh. It says, "Do you not know that he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her in body? For it is said, the two will become one flesh." So there's nothing like mindless sex. When people say things like, "Oh, it's a mindless sex," because when in sex, in a sexual union, the man and the woman becomes one flesh. That's why it says, "He who joins himself, unites himself with a prostitute, is one with her in body." So sex is a gift that God has given to married couples to help in the process of becoming one flesh, to help them to develop intimacy, not just sexual intimacy, but intimacy in all other areas of their relationship: emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, and all other kinds of intimacy. And so, if we don't understand the role that sex plays in helping our union, in helping us becoming more intimate, becoming one flesh, then we will not be able to maximize the benefit that there is. Verse 18 of that 1 Corinthians chapter 16 also says, "Run from sexual sin. No other sin so clearly affects the body as this one does. For sexual immorality is a sin against your own body." So in sex, the man and the woman are joined, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, and on all other levels. Because sex, like it says, it's not just it's not just a physical thing. It's something that you do with the whole of you. And so in marriage, the essence is that we can give ourselves freely to our spouses. The gift of sex in marriage is also meant to protect us from sexual immorality, because if we are honest with each other, one of the reasons why people marry is so that they can have their sexual needs met. And so in marriage, that's one of the benefits. So if you're in marriage and you're not having your sexual needs met, then that purpose for which God has created sex, for which God has given sex as a gift to us in marriage, you are not enjoying that benefit. And it's something that as couples, we need to be looking at, we need to be talking about, not burying our heads in the sand and hoping it will go away. One day rolls into another, before you know it, you're married for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you're not actually enjoying the benefit that God has given you through sex. 1 Corinthians 7:2 says, "But since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband." One of the things we look at, is how is the fact that sex is a need that we all have. So we all have sexual needs, and God is saying that you should have, each man should have his own wife, each woman her own husband, so that we can have our sexual needs met. Christianity does not take away the fact that we all have sexual needs, and God intends that those needs be met in marriage. Hebrews 13, verse 4 says, "Give honor to marriage and remain faithful to one another in marriage. God will surely judge people who are immoral and those who commit adultery." So this is what God is trying to prevent us from when he says each man his own wife, each woman her own husband, so that we can remain faithful to one another, because marriage is honorable. He says we should remain faithful, the bed undefiled. So we are in marriage so that we can have our sexual needs met. And if those needs are not being met, let's have, these are conversations that we should be having. And like I said, today is just to kind of, stimulate that conversation. So if you're for a wife, you're watching this, or you're a husband, you're watching this, I will want to encourage you to have a sit down with your spouse and have a candid and honest conversation with them. What's our sex life like? Are we actually happy? Are you enjoying sex? Are we maximizing the benefits that God has given us in sex? Is there anything we can do better? If it's great, can it be greater? If it's poor, can it be better? If it's good, can it be better? How can we improve things? How can we make sure that we are actually benefiting maximally from this gift? And I just want to invite comments as well. If you have anything you want to say about what I've just shared, please do go into the comment section and put your comments there below. If there's any particular struggle that you've experienced and how you overcome the struggle, please put it down in the comment section as well, so that other people reading it will know that they are not alone, and they can learn from how you have overcome your own challenges. So I'm going to stop here, and I hope to continue this talk in my next video. Thank you so much once again for joining me, and God bless you. Bye.